Hey guys, BlackCross here, and welcome to yet another video of just a thought thing, as I usually like to do. I usually like to come up with whatever subject I have stuck in my head and stuff like that. And technically speaking, I really shouldn't even be remotely talking about it, considering the fact that we're still in 2019, as well as considering the fact that there's literally like 2.5 months left of 2019, which, when you think about it, that's not far away from it being 2020. So, but with that being said, I figure I go ahead and talk about potential games that I'm more or less interested in or more or less wanting to play for 2020. Now, this is going to be kind of a mixed subject, I do understand, considering the fact the majority of these games are already out as of like this year and last year and so on and so forth. But with that being said, though, I've actually developed quite a list of games that I still want to play. Now, if you know my collection and stuff like that, I've built quite a collection of games, and unfortunately a lot of it I still have yet to play. So I want to go ahead and try to develop a list of criteria games that I want to play all the way through and stuff, and hopefully I can actually start doing that shortly soon. But that being said, like I stated before, this year right now, as of games that I'm wanting to play, after 15, there's Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, that I'm wanting to play. Then of course there's the second one, followed by Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and then Metal Wolf Chaos. Those are currently the list of games that I am wanting to play as of right now. But as of right now, that list is actually going to be growing before too much longer, and it's going to be quite an interesting list to talk about. Now, this isn't going to be a particularly list of games that I'm going to be playing. These are going to be games that I'm wanting to play as soon as I get a chance to, either by access availability or as soon as I'm able to start on it. So this is more or less going to be and it's going to be a weird word to say, because when you say bucket list, people assume that, oh, this is going to be a list of things that you want to do before you die. Well, this isn't so much that type of list, but it's more of a games that I'm wanting to play in 2020 bucket list. Games that I'm hoping to play in 2020 before 2021 rolls around and stuff like that. These are the ideal games that I'm wanting to sink my teeth into and give them a shot and stuff. Before, though, I want to go ahead and give an honorable mention, and I say honorable mention because as of right now, we have no idea when it will even come out. We're in October. They said, or someone was saying that it was supposed to be talked about in September. September rolled around. It's been radio silence, and I do want to talk about it in detail in the future, but for right now, I think that one just needs to be in a separate video entirely. But Biomutant is a game that I really, really want to play, but unfortunately, considering we don't have an official release date, per se, that one right there is just going to be considered an honorable mention of 2020. Now, if for some reason Noric, or even for that matter, Experiment 101 comes out and actually states an actual release date in 2020, then it will be an actual game that I'm going to be playing as soon as it comes out. But until then, it is right now in that Nexus realm of we don't know type thing. So it's going to be an honorable mention for the time being. But now we can go on to the actual list itself of games that I'm wanting to play in 2020. Again, these are kind of a mix of games that have come out before and a list of games that are currently being released in 2020. So let's go ahead and talk about the first one, being that of Pokemon Shield. Now, I picked Pokemon Shield specifically because I like the legendary Pokemon Shield that it represents and stuff. I keep forgetting its name is Samata. I'll put in right here. I may not even be remotely close to what I'm thinking, but I keep forgetting how to properly pronounce the actual Pokemon's name. But I like the legendary Pokemon. And while technically we are slowly starting to see a list of Pokemon that are going to be for either one or the other, there are still quite a bit of Pokemon that are going to be coming out specifically for Shield that I definitely like. So needless to say, while technically Sirfetch'd which is basically a Galar region version of Farfetch. While I like that one, and you can only get it in Sword, but there is, however, a Galar region of Ponyta, and it's in Shield. So while, yes, it's kind of a mix and match, that does not necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. If nothing else, that still means that I want to get Shield more so because of certain Pokemons that are only going to be available on Shield, you know. And this is the same that's been around for ages. Every Pokemon game has like a handful of Pokemon that you can only get in one version versus the other. And this is how most players usually go about deciding which one they want to get more so. And this is why I kind of decided to get Shield, was most because of Legendary. But so far, Shield is definitely the one that I'm wanting to play. So technically that comes out in November, actually, surprisingly. That comes out in November. But despite that, though, I am definitely looking forward to getting that whenever that finally comes available and I can play it. Thing is, though, I don't have a Switch, as you can tell. Don't have a Switch. So it will be sometime, so that's going to be more of a 2020 game that I'm looking to play, actually, personally myself. Another game that I am looking to wanting to play in 2020 is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Now, I have a little history with Assassin's Creed. I love the Assassin's Creed series. I played the first one, I love the second one, I played through the SCO trilogy storyline, and then of course I played through the third one. Now, most people will tell you out from a limb, but it seems like we've been getting more and more Assassin's Creed every year almost. It's kind of like Ubisoft's Call of Duty kind of deal. But the good news is that they've slowed down up until Origin, and then the year later they got Odyssey. So it was like, dadgummit, they did good about not releasing it every year, which so far they don't have a new one for this year, which is good, but that's not to say that they won't come out with another one before too much longer. But with that being said, I want to get back into the Assassin's Creed series, but I'm wanting to play through particular games that interest me most. Like, for example, Black Flag in particularly is a pirate theme. Now, originally I hadn't played it whenever it first came out, technically, mostly because I felt like it would be more like the third one, where it's got like the boat missions and stuff like that. And I felt, because while the third one did a really good job with the battle boats and everything like that, I feel like that the fourth one would be more of that, considering its pirate theme. So with that being stated, I still want to play that game still as of right now. So hopefully whenever I get a chance, I'll definitely start on that and see what it's like, you know. See if my expectations is a little bit better than what I thought, or if it's what I thought it was. But we'll find out. Medieval for the PlayStation 4. I don't think I have to be the one to tell you that I am a little bit leery about Medieval for PS4. I say the phrase leery because of the gameplay quality. Technically, they recently released a demo of Medieval, known as the short-lived demo, and it's very short. Basically, just the first area after Sir Daniel gets out from his crypt. But after playing it, I come to the conclusion that it basically feels like the original PlayStation 1 game, but took the graphics out of it and put polished new game graphics in it and all. The gameplay does not improve whatsoever. It's basically a copy and paste. And I feel like, considering this is technically a remake, it's not just a remaster, it's a remake. So by that standard alone, it should be given the opportunity to improve gameplay elements and stuff. And unfortunately, that didn't seem to happen. So I'm kind of leery about Medieval for the PS4. I am wanting to play it though, give it a shot and see what it's like, and see if it's probably better than the PS1 or not. Unfortunately, it seems like it's not going to be the case. If nothing else, it seems like a mirror image almost. But I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful for Medieval, personally myself. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. So, I technically own this on the GameCube. So, you would think I'd be playing it on the GameCube. Well, in 2020, this is supposed to come out on both the Switch and the PS4. So I am considering getting it either on the Switch or the PS4. From what I've heard details on, you can technically cross-play between the two systems, which is really good to know. But I still want to play Crystal Chronicles because it seems like it would still be an interesting game to play. And it's been on my list of games that I've been wanting to play. You know, it had been for a while. I just hadn't had a chance to be in league to be where, like, okay, I can put everything aside, I can finally play this game. And that's basically where this list kind of comes into play, is that these games are games that I've been wanting to play, but I just hadn't had a chance to, because there have been other releases that came out before them and stuff. So it's one of those things where it's like, and since technically it's supposed to come out in 2020, that means that really I should wait until it comes out then, and then I can play it and experience it, rather than play the GameCube version. Not to say that the GameCube version might be bad, but rather I think I might enjoy it a little bit better with a PlayStation 4 controller or something like that. Then again, I don't know. Maybe whenever I finally get a Switch, I may decide if I want the Switch version or the PS4 version. As far as I know, that's kind of up in the air for me about which one I want preferably. So, Persona 5. I've heard a lot of people talk about this game backwards and forwards, and here's the problem that I have, and I know there's going to be a lot of Persona fans out there that are going to defend me or go against me and stuff like that. I don't care, because as it stands right now, there's really no major thing to define whether or not I should or shouldn't. Technically, I've got Persona 5 for the PlayStation 4. The unfortunate thing is I have yet to even start it up yet, so therefore I hadn't really played it. So some people will probably tell me, go ahead and just pick up Royal when it comes out. And then there's some dedicated Persona fans out there that will tell you, no, you need to play the original one first, then you can play Royal, because Royal changes a lot of stuff entirely. And that may be true, you know, I really don't know, because there's a lot of things that could be different from Royal versus what the regular one did. And I'm kind of in that mixed frame of where it's like, I just want to play the original one first right now, and then whenever I feel like I want to get the full experience, or the enhanced experience in this case, I'll pick up Royal eventually and see how that's like. So for the time being right now, it's going to be Persona 5 Regular Edition. As weird as this may sound, I'm not a fan of horror survivor games. I do enjoy them occasionally at times, but I don't like being scared that often. But I am going to tell you something interesting. Since I have played Clock Tower 3, which by the time this video gets released, you'll see the episode of me playing through Clock Tower 3 on PlayStation 2 Legacy. I played through Clock Tower 3 a little bit, and I have to say, I really dig how it kind of plays itself out. I really do like the setup of it, you know. Basically, if you've watched that video, it kind of summarizes that you play as this girl who basically gets trapped in her own house, much less gets trapped in like different realms or time frames and stuff, and she ends up being encountered by ghosts of the undead, followed by a murderer per se. And as you're trying to survive, avoiding being detected or even killed by said murderer, you're discovering and unfolding a story involving said murderer. And once you discover the full story, then you actually fight that murderer slash monster slash whatever nightmare fiend he is in a boss fight combat. And it's weird for a horror survivor game setup, but for what it is, I actually enjoyed it. It was actually one of those type of games that I'm like, you know what, I actually wouldn't mind going back and trying to beat it, you know? Will I get terrified? Of course, you know, I'm a wuss. But I'm not going to deny it whenever I say this, that Clock Tower 3 actually looks really, really good. So I definitely want to give that a shot whenever I get a chance to. So that's definitely, on a rare occasion, there are a bunch of PlayStation 2 games that I'm still wanting to play. But that one in particular, I'm wanting to go back and actually, you know, more or less finish it. Because I was so intrigued by it, you know. It's one of those games that you don't run across as often that makes you go, I want to play it all the way through, you know, just to see what happens, or get intrigued. You know, there's some games out there like, yeah, this is actually really good, or hey, this ain't bad. This is one of those, I want to find out more. I want to play it more, you know? And it's weird coming from a horror survivor game, because the last time that's happened was actually that of Fatal Frame 1. Fatal Frame 2 and 3 still does it for me to this day, but Fatal Frame 1, it was that unique feel of enhanced difference in the horror survivor genre, because I was always familiar with the normal shooting zombies and stuff like that. No, in this game's case, this is completely different, and Fatal Frame the same way. They were both very different in how they delivered the theme horror and enhanced the gameplay to make it a little bit more intriguing and very eventful. So needless to say, I definitely want to go back and play through Clock Tower 3 in particularly. That's going to be probably a Halloween theme let's play perchance whenever I get to it, so definitely be on the lookout for that one, because that one right there, I really want to sink my teeth into that one. That was really good, in my personal opinion. This is going to be embarrassing, considering the fact that, as a Souls fan, I tend to try to jump into the most current Souls-like gameplay type material, and you would think Code Vein, especially as little as I talked about it, I would have probably played it by now, or even tried to start it. I haven't even got the damn game yet. I hadn't really got a chance to, because there are other games that I still want to play, preferably before Code Vein. And Code Vein is, of course, a hard game. And so as a hard game, it's going to build up on, like, I'm going to have to persevere the difficulty and stuff. So for the time being right now, I'm not really in the mood to persevere that difficulty gap, per se. But based on the demo that I played, it wasn't really that bad. I actually did kind of like it to a certain extent. So definitely want to go back and play through Code Vein and kind of start on it in 2020. That's probably going to be like one of the first games I'll be playing in 2020. Probably more or less, depending on how things go. Okay, how do I go about explaining this next one? Obviously, it won't come out until 2020, March 2020 for that matter. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about it. I'm still kind of like on the fence about it, but I'm still relatively hyped for the game. I'm keeping my expectations low to the ground level of expectations for Final Fantasy VII Remake, because there are some cases where I kind of like the changes that they've got so far, but I'm going to hold back a little bit because I'm afraid there are certain elements in the game that I liked it from the original that is going to change the game entirely. Keep in mind, it's only going to cover the first entire section of Midgar, so it's going to be one of those things where it's like, while yes, playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake, we're going to be getting a really different, unique spin on Final Fantasy VII, it's going to be that big of a difference that we won't be able to rival with. So it's one of those things where it's like, they're definitely pushing the boundaries of 7 Remake and changing it entirely to some degree, but at the same time, there's going to be some comparison that people are going to try to compare to and stuff, and while there are some people who are for it, there are some people who are obviously against it. And I personally, I have a mixed thing. I do love my turn-based RPGs. I do love them to a certain degree, but I prefer action, hack and slash, RPG elements if done right. And when it comes to Final Fantasy games, Square Enix seems to have this like trend of trying to keep Final Fantasy themed combat in with new gameplay elements, and they try to, like, I don't know, I guess it's sort of a phrase of experimentation and seeing where it can go and stuff. So they try to keep their fan base as close as possible, but they tried to evolve the series into more of an action sequence and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes it doesn't work, you know? It's like the last known Final Fantasy game we have gotten, technically, was 15, naturally. Now, 15 was definitely more action-based, but it failed in a number of areas. Not enough to make it a really bad game entirely, but enough to where it didn't feel like what it was supposed to be. You know, a lot of people are saying it's similar to Kingdom Hearts, when in reality, it's not. I can tell you that. I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, and it is nothing like Kingdom Hearts. But, to that extent, I'm hoping that Final Fantasy VII Remake will more or less quench the thirst of what I'm wanting in an action Final Fantasy game. I am hoping that it does. If nothing else, I hope it comes close to something like that of Crisis Core, which arguably is probably the only action Final Fantasy game that we have gotten that does itself decently. You know what I think. It does itself decently, and it does it well. Final Fantasy VII Remake, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So I had never really talked about this game at all. I think out of every game I've talked about so far, this one, I barely even mentioned it. So are you ready for this one? I hope you are, because there's a little bit to explain about it. The Banner Saga Trilogy. Now, this one I've been interested in since I first discovered the Banner Saga series. I first heard the first one about a couple months before the second one got confirmed. Kind of interested in it. It had a mix of a RPG tactical aspect with a major storytelling aspect of it. And it seemed very interesting. The only reason why I hadn't gotten it until the trilogy came out was simply because I was kind of like, you know, I like how it looks, but because it's a digital game, something tells me it's just... Because I have this mentality. Do not ask me why, and I know technically this is the future, but I feel like if I purchase digital games, that we will never see a physical release of said digital game. And I feel like if I purchase physical, I'll see it more and more. But sometimes digital games don't always become physical, and I wish it would. Thankfully, though, we have companies like Limited Run Games who specializes in making physical games for certain ones. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, it's always nice to see physical games finally come out. And so when the third one finally came out, I was like, well, it doesn't look like we're going to get a physical version of the series, so I guess I might as well buckle down and get it. That wasn't until I looked into it and I found that the Banner Saga Trilogy game set got released. And I was like, I guess they were waiting for all three of them to come out. I don't know. But yeah, that one I am definitely wanting to play when I get a chance to. That one is on that top tier height of like games that I'm definitely wanting to play. And Banner Saga is that one. Much like with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, I'm still not sure which version I want to go with the most, considering the fact that it technically came out for the PlayStation 4 and recently it's going to be available for the Switch. So it's kind of hard to say which one I want to get preferably. So if I had to decide, again, this is kind of still within the air region of decision making. I don't know. I feel like if I get it on the Switch, I'll have the ability to take it with me anywhere I go, and I don't have to worry about being stagnated on just a console. It's a perfect RPG machine, in my personal opinion, and I should support the system in its entirety. You know, I love the ideal concept. But there's something about having it on the PlayStation 4. I feel comfortable with that PlayStation 4 controller. Technically speaking, they do make mods to where you can hook up the PlayStation 4 controller to your Nintendo Switch, so it won't be a big deal. So again, I'm still kind of in that mixed region of which one I want to get. Again, because of the portability, I want to get it for the Switch version, but that's just kind of like up in the air. But that game in particularly that I'm talking about is Dragon Quest XI's Echo of an Exclusive Age Definitive Edition. Or Dragon Quest XI, however way you want to be more specific. That one in particularly, I've been wanting to jump into for a while now. Ever since they first talked about it being in development, I definitely wanted to get another console version of Dragon Quest. The only console version of Dragon Quest, I mean, technically speaking in terms of like, in my age, the only game that I've ever played was Dragon Quest VIII, and I loved the heck out of 8. I really did. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that it was on the handheld, I would have gotten it for the 3DS. But unfortunately, it only became available for the 3DS, and I'm hoping eventually somebody out there will be like, let's try porting it on the Switch or the PS4 or something like that, you know, with these editions. Because I love the edition that they have on there. It's just because it's on the 3DS, I don't think I would actually play it. Again, I prefer playing games in the long term of things. You know, the portability is just a convenience for me. And the handhelds, I can't play handhelds as long. I do like them to some degree, but if I'm going to play a game, I'm playing it because I want to enjoy the game in its entirety. Not just to pick it up, play it every once in a while, and be done with it for who knows how long until I want to play it again. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And Dragon Quest XI, because of it being on both the Switch and PS4, I can have that option whenever I want to. You know, the fact that it's on the Switch, I can actually have it on the dock, on my TV, normal gameplay, and then on occasion I can actually take it with me on the go whenever I want to. So I may end up getting it on the Switch, but I definitely want to play another Dragon Quest game, and 11 is that next one that I'm wanting to play. I know a lot of them are already released on the DS/3DS, but if you know me, I'm not a fan of handhelds, not a big fan that is per se, and I just prefer my actual console ones. So that right there is my bucket list, if you will, of games that I'm wanting to play in 2020. That's not to say that it's a guarantee that I'm going to play them, but eventually I will be playing them when I get a chance to. Eventually I will actually get to making a list of games and have them dedicated to be like, okay, this is the list of games that I'm going to be playing through from here on out, you know, something like that frame. When something happens, something will either be added or changed. And keep in mind, we're not even in 2020 yet, so we don't even know what other games are going to be announced. And then there's also the fact that at E3, with the new PS5 and the next Xbox system that's going to be coming out, which I've recently heard that it's supposed to be called the Xbox 2 original, I guess. But anyway, the point is that next year is going to be big for a lot of gamers. The new systems are going to be coming out. We're going to be getting a lot of new games that are probably going to be for those two systems in particularly. And there's just going to be a lot of different things that's going to be happening from here on out. So, with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this one. Let me know in the comments below which game are you more or less interested in seeing me playing on Twitch or whatever. Or if there's any games that you feel like you want me to add onto the list, let me know and I'll try to get into it whenever I can. So, but for the time being, those are the current games that I'm wanting to play as of right now. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.